allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, Mr. Doricio, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Hofkin. Here. Mr. Prego.
Here.
Mr. Hipser.
Here.
Mr. Elliott.
Present.
Mrs. McGinnis.
Here.
Ms. Pennypacker.
Here.
Mrs. Cunningham.
Here.
Mrs. McCormick.
Here.
Mr. McCarrick.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doricio. We're going to move on to the introduction of staff. That was Mr. Doricio, our board secretary and also our business administrator. Next to him is Georgiana Fisher, our human resource director, and Dr. Farina, our assistant superintendent. Next to Dr. Roach is our solicitor, Mr. Kyle Summers, and does not look like we have our student representatives today. They will be missed. Next, we will move on to the board president's report. It's very short today. I wanted to start by thanking all the board members, Dr. Roach, Mr. Summers, Mr. Sultanic, all the members of our administration who gave up their Saturday to attend our board retreat last month. The time and commitment of this whole team is just, it's truly amazing and it's very much appreciated. I thought we had a lot of great discussions. Learned some new things, at least I did, and tried to have a little fun. Still not happy about the helmet. That was too hard. But I hope everyone found it as valuable as I did. I'd like to see that tradition continue. I also wanted to provide you guys with an update on the policy committee. As you may remember, 2 weeks ago at our workshop, Mrs. Pennypacker had reported that she planned to increase the number of policy committee meetings to 2 meetings a month beginning in March. The goal was to have one meeting solely focused on policy 707. That's the use of facilities policy due to all the complexities that are involved in that. And then a second meeting where they would continue the review of the already scheduled policies that they were reviewing. Unfortunately, once we looked at the calendar, we really couldn't get that scheduled. So that was very challenging. So instead of having 2 separate 1-hour meetings, we're going to look to lengthen the existing policy committee meetings to 2 hours instead of 1, beginning in the March meeting. Hopefully this will allow the committee to dedicate a sufficient amount of time to both the use of facilities policy and the rest of them. And that's the end of the board's president report for today. Thank you. After that, we will move on to the superintendent's report, which I imagine will be much longer than mine.
All right, thank you very much. Again, I do have a little longer report than that, so I'll take you through that. I know everyone's excited to get the updated COVID information hot off the presses for some of the numbers and information that is here. Let me minimize this off the screen. Okay, so again, going back to the same color scheme that we've seen before in terms of being high in the red there, 100 more than 100 cases per 100,000, substantial 50 to 99, and in that kind of peach orange, and then moderate and low. So again, these are the same charts, just simply updated from previous. So you can see the week of 113, we hit that high peak of 1,343, and since then have seen a nice steep decline. So it's very, very encouraging to see those numbers working in that direction, heading towards our health and safety plan, which has us, maybe making some potential changes there as we get into that substantial and moderate level, according to the plan that's in place right now. So those numbers are encouraging. We are hearing great things from the county on a call today that the last 4 days have been an average of 150 that they've seen. So that'll bring the overall county down, and then hopefully our area as well. The number itself is high, and I'll show you a comparison chart here that this is a high number in the county. It's actually the highest number in the footprint of the school districts at this time. Most of them seem to be the ones that you'll see on the chart around the 250 area. So, but you can see that stark decline, and we're hoping to see that continue here over the next couple of weeks. This is the positivity. So again, this is a different number of the number of positive PCR tests. A slight uptick, but probably fairly flat at that point. Again, hoping to see that come down as we go forward. This is again the Montgomery County municipalities for us. This is a comparison chart that I share with just to kind of give you where things are right now, snapshot as of the 3rd of February. That's kind of the districts that border us, touch us, that we often hear about, comparisons as well. So that just gives you those numbers there for both the first number, the 349 being the incident rate per 100,000, and then the positivity rate over a 14-day period there for the second number. Next, just share the update on the county itself. So you can see the county peak there at, again, the same week, 113 over 975. And again, seeing a tremendous decrease over the course of the last 4 weeks and continue to monitor that. You can see again, a little below Berks, Bucks, Chester, Lehigh, everyone seems to be coming down tremendously. If you would, compare that, kind of see where we are in those other counties, again, that border us, because we know that COVID doesn't have borders. They don't stop at one school district, but it's just a numbers for us to consider as we're moving forward. And then finally, these are some acuity numbers of actual cases here in the district. So then these go back to November just to show you the projections. You've seen these before. The first 3 slides you'll have seen before. And then we filled in the bottom of January and have, as of today, filled in the February numbers. So again, see the 4 schools there, positive cases, then the close contacts associated with those, and then total people quarantined based upon those numbers. So you can see at the end of November was 48, 27, 6, 45, and 56 across our schools.
That's students and staff, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. There's December numbers. So when we're seeing the uptick. And then the January numbers. So you see that gold box on the left. That is when we had our last change where we adjusted to not conducting contact tracing in the classroom or on the buses. So you will start to see a little bit of decline there in the number of close contacts because the shift was to those priority areas with remaining in universal masking and less students needing to quarantine. So that's starting the week of the 21st. So we start to see those numbers. And some of you will be blown away by the current numbers here in February to date of the impact of that less contact tracing, the impact of the steep decline across. Those are the numbers we're seeing. So see the week of 211, that's up and through today. You can see the number of positives as well as contact tracing. Close contacts and total quarantine at this time. We're seeing it trending tremendously in the right direction, which is encouraging for many reasons. But again, sharing the information as it's happening, those numbers will be updated. Hopefully they're 0 by the end of the day tomorrow. Dr. Farina will have those updated and on our website. So that's the number. So again, bringing to where we are now, we're obviously seeing a lot of conversations and news media and emails and things about this. So again, just revisiting, I know we all know where we are, but based upon all the numbers that are there, the current numbers that we're working with or in our health and safety plan talk about being universal masking as cases are above 50, so 50 and higher. And then if they drop below 50, then it shifts to either mask recommended or optional, depending upon how you look at it, below there. So we're on that trajectory. And I know there's going to be sure some conversations moving forward across all of our counties and schools. But that's where we currently sit right now. And that's been the plan for a long period of time, tied to the county numbers that are there. So there was a call today that I was on with the county to have further conversations, the Office of Public Health, as well as Dr. Arkush and Dr. Rubin from CHOP, all of who kind of weighed in and helped guide the superintendents in some of the conversations. And I know you guys know all the people that are involved. But it doesn't seem, at one point the county said they were going to revisit the metrics of 50 or 100. And right now there's no changes in those that we see coming down the pike anytime soon from the county. They're holding those numbers. And but we do want to share an update with you. I'm going to turn over to Dr. Farina here because there's something that we shared with you in January that seems to have changed in the last 3 weeks. That'll be important to share.
Hopefully, can you hear me? This is kind of hard. So in our previous presentation in January, we explained sort of the pros and cons, masked, not masked, as it related to quarantine of students. And so this is the graphic that was displayed in January. And so as you can see that if we were mask optional or mask strongly recommended, it meant in that first box where you see contact tracing, we had to look at all settings. So it took us right back to the classroom, transportation, extracurriculars, and then we had to apply the exclusion criteria that many of you have seen, that grid. And then the options were quarantine. So if we were mask optional previously, we were looking across all settings, and the only option for close contacts, who you remember are individuals who are not vaccinated mostly, they had to quarantine. There was no provision for any other option for the district as it related to their exclusion criteria. And you see it was about 10 days if you weren't masked. If you would mask, then you had to mask days 6 through 10, still mask in order to participate, return on day 11. Now, based on our conversation today, I'm going to show you a new graphic. Now, I'm sorry for adding all of this stuff, but what we heard today from the county is that if we were mask optional or mask strongly encouraged, we only had to contact in those prioritized locations, which is the cafeteria and then in extracurriculars that are vigorous exertion. So generally, we're talking about sports, although, music, theater, instrumentation, those kinds of things are included. And then we would have to follow the criteria. So the one note is that in those two environments, it takes us back to 6 feet. So that's one caveat, although it's only in those environments. Now, the option that they provided today was that if you were identified as a close contact, now that language hasn't changed, what a close contact is. But if those students would mask, so if Mrs. Fisher was close to me, I'm positive she's deemed a close contact, she doesn't have a mask on, what we would say is, we need you to mask for the next 10 days, but you can stay in school. And then on day 11, you can go back to not masking. So that's the change. And it's, I've said that's a significant change because the only option we had for close contacts last time was quarantine. So if you were close contact by definition, it was 5 days. If you were unmasked. Now we would ask to mask for 10 days. And that date is pretty standard. They haven't said it would be less. And then they do require a test, but the nuance here is that it's an at-home test. The results get reported to us. We are shifting. So if the district transitions to masks strongly recommended and not required, the Office of Public Health will no longer provide us the BinX Now tests. We would have to work through CHOP to get FlowFlex home tests. So the nuance there is the county still says mask. That is, we just reviewed the thresholds. We operate under their guidance. And so if we don't adhere to mask required, they will not provide us the tests, but we can access them through CHOP. So that is a nuance. That's a change. And there's how we access them in the training. Some of us would have to go through the training again to get new test kits. So I just wanted to show you that just shifted from January to today. That's what the chart would look like. Okay.
Sorry. So if Georgie were the close contact in your example, is Georgie vaccinated or not vaccinated, or does it not matter?
So the definition of close contact doesn't change. So what holds true is their definition, and by definition offered by the county, those who are not vaccinated are the close contacts. People who are vaccinated are not deemed a close contact. So that's the nuance. Although I made the same mistake even after 2.5 years of doing this. So
I also see that for contact tracing, the busing is no longer on there.
correct.
Is that because masks are still required on transportation? Okay.
Yes, that's federal. That's a federal requirement. Masking would still be required on transportation. We don't necessarily have control over that.
And we asked that question as well to clarify, and it's really getting into the priority areas. that they want, that those are the high priority areas of cafeteria, clearly less than 6 feet, no masks for eating, and the exertion activities. Again, that was the difference yesterday where our heads were spinning because it was completely different than what we shared 3 weeks ago in terms of that. We wanted to make sure that we're transparent, that that's what we're being told.
Part of it will also be, you see in the contact tracing portion, classrooms and transportation are not indicated. However, we still are responsible for outbreak management, which may require us, if we're seeing multiple kids in a grade band or on the same bus, we have to look for outbreak management. And so that's another nuance there, that it's not that we'll never look on transportation or in a classroom. If we're seeing several cases in the same location, we will. But generally, our nurses have been doing that anyway, because we've been responsible for outbreak management.
And that
The
would
whole
go
time.
across anything, chickenpox, anything. right?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
It's
we
the
do,
same
we do
idea.
that for whooping cough, for varicella, for all kinds of things.
That may require a certain classroom or a certain area to mask for a period of time based upon some of that, or whatever the other mitigation efforts.
Yep. Yep.
Well, obviously you can't tell. How hard do you think it would be to get the kits from CHOP?
Well, I have training on, it's not hard.
Dr. Farina, have you looked into, the Pennsylvania Department of Health provides rapid antigen testing to school districts that don't have an Office of Public Health or a municipal one. Have you looked into if you have a county, can you not get them from the Department of Health? Because like I get mine directly from the Department of Health.
We can.
Okay.
I mean, we can. We've never had to because we have never had difficulty securing test kits. And I'm already slated to pick up FlowFlex tests on Monday.
From CHOP.
Because they're going to transition to at-home tests eventually anyway. The Office of Public Health will not in perpetuity provide them, but CHOP has them available that we can get.
And we did look into the pool testing when it first came out, but that did not seem like it was going to benefit us based upon what we already had with the Binex now and in time, as you know, in time.
Pool testing has really gone in decline.
Right. Left a slide here just for discussion, not knowing, kind of really sharing a bunch of information about that. I definitely have more to say and.
So
okay.
I would like to start off the discussion. So the current decline in case numbers is such good news. I'm not sure we're ever going to get to that 50 number. I just don't see it. So I'm concerned what the exit strategy is here. For lack of a better term, I'm not sure that's the right term, but you know what I mean? Like, when is enough enough? So Dr. Roche, do you think by our board workshop in 2 weeks, you can come back with some possible alternatives to our current plan metrics that would allow the district to move to voluntary masking maybe a little sooner than waiting to get to that 50?
Yeah, I can. I mean, that provides 2 more weeks worth of numbers to see if the number, I mean, again, as you know, the state numbers come out on Fridays and the local numbers come out on Tuesdays. So that would provide 2 more weeks worth of numbers and definitely can work with the administrative team on possible alternatives and.
Yeah. That would be very helpful because, I have real doubt that, maybe by spring, maybe by summer, when we've got windows open and everything, but I'm not sure if we wait for that 50, we're going to be waiting for that off ramp for a long time.
Yeah, we're not even at 50 in real numbers yet. We're at 74 last week.
Yeah. So just some maybe possible
Yep.
alternatives, maybe different metrics, some other.
Yep.
Great.
I think that's a lot of the conversations that, according to the other superintendents, it's that risk tolerance. I mean, if you remember when we went back into hybrid, the numbers were probably where they are now, so things are different. So yeah, happy to.
Right. When we were seeing
together.
300, we were freaking out before. Now we're like, yay, it's 300.
Right. Understood.
Totally different. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Other discussion? Question?
Well, I'll say it because people are thinking it, and I know other board members are thinking it. With all the articles coming out in the news lately, CDC officials resigning, changing their stance, doctors changing their stances on things like that. Our own internal discussion here, the information we're getting from the county, we're not going to hit those metrics anytime soon, if ever. Why the hell are we doing mask optional at this point? Why aren't we doing mask optional at this point when we just said that in the changes to close contact, vaccinated are no longer considered close contacts. Close contacts no longer need to quarantine. You must mask for 10 days. Busing is no longer a close contact issue. The only issue we have really is whether we wear the masks or not. You know, the mitigation procedures that have been in place for the past year and a half have really not done much. And that's becoming more and more the general consensus every day. And I have to speak up about this because, one, I've said it multiple times, and there are a lot of people in our communities that are saying this also. So I have to speak up for them tonight, saying, why the hell aren't we doing something about it? No, stop. Don't even. I'm not doing this to gain support or garner hate. No, it's just one of the things that we're up here for, and we have to discuss it. That's it. You know, I'm not doing it for applause. This is just, we're all up here representing the community, so we have to have this discussion and see where that discussion goes to.
So I do want to just say, because I received a lot of emails telling me that CHOP had changed their stance. And I was rather surprised because I'm on like weekly calls and things with them. So I actually went to the policy lab and found what they actually said, not what people say they said. And it says specifically, from our perspective, decisions regarding mask mitigation strategies cannot be solely based on whether or not masks are effective at reducing transmission because they are effective. So they haven't actually said that masks don't work, no matter what anybody tells you. I just printed this today. They are still saying that. What they're saying is we need to look at our local numbers and decide, like, I think, what did you say? Risk something, man? Risk tolerance. I'm definitely there. I'm with you. But I want to hear from administration what our plan is. How do we get to mask optional? Let's give them the 2 weeks to come back with a plan. That's just my opinion.
That's
So-
great, and I hope we hear from others.
I hope
about
so
it
too.
Also, but, you know, again, you know, you said that the masks are effective, but, you know, you're also hearing that masks, you know, we've heard the mask debate, the whole thing, so I'm not going to go back and forth. You know, being optional, the people that want to wear them are going to wear them. People that are really concerned about it are going to wear them. And we even had, no, I won't go down that road because I don't want to quote somebody that's not here.
Are we absolutely required to use just the 6 municipalities within Montgomery County? It seems like it's damaging us, and it's really too small a sampling. You don't get real numbers with such a small sampling. You know, I'd suggest going countywide rather than just our 6 municipalities.
There's no requirement for that. That's what's been presented, and the county numbers have been side by side with those the whole time. You've seen them. So they can, again, and in what I heard you ask in terms of options,
Right.
that's an option that could be considered if, you know, in 2 weeks, that could be an option to consider the county numbers as opposed to the local. We, you know, at some point when we were using the county numbers, that people felt that wasn't an accurate record of what was going on here. So that's why they were side by side. Because for a while it was just the county.
I just want to say, I agree with you, Ed Keith. I think it's time. I think we're never getting to 50 cases, not in a million years. And if we do, I'll be really, really surprised. Because like I said, I have a little spreadsheet and I know Dr. Roach hates when I do this, but I'm doing it anyway. And I take the actual, not the per 100,000, but the actual population in our 6 towns. And yeah, I mean, we were at 257 the other week, and now we're down to 74, which is awesome. But even at 74 with real numbers, we're not at 50. So, you know, I think it's time to change it.
So as a new board member, I'll just ask the question, is there a reason that, I mean, do we wait 2 weeks or do we do it tonight? What are the process for talking about doing it tonight? Or is that not even an option on the table?
No,
I plead ignorance as a new board member.
There isn't currently an action item
Right.
and, we hadn't planned on it. This is just part of his superintendent report, but that's all I know. I'll have to defer to our lawyer about anything else.
Sure. I mean, I can just briefly touch on that, which is that there is as a result of recent revisions to the Sunshine Act, which we've actually talked about as a board previously, there's a requirement that the action agenda for any meeting be published 24 hours in advance. There is an exception to that allows a board to take action even though something was not on an agenda. There's just a procedure that we would have to go through if that was a desire to do that. So we did it actually once before relative to use of facilities waivers. We took the steps that are needed to do that, involves allowing additional public comment, a number of motions, but that's certainly something that could occur. If that were to occur, I would suggest that the conclusion of any action that's on the agenda, that be a time that such action would be proposed if that were a desire of the board.
So just to recap, you would say that if we wanted to do something, do it under new business after the action items?
That's right. We actually do not have a specific new business slot, but I would say at the conclusion of the action items that are on the agenda. Correct.
Okay.
Sorry, gonna plead ignorance again. Is it something that we could say because of the 24-hour notice and wanting to get public comment or whatever the case may be, would we call a special meeting to discuss and decide on this?
Well, what I just asked Dr. Roach to do was to make a new, some new recommendations. And then I assumed we would be voting in 2 weeks.
So I just feel like 2 weeks is, arbitrary at this point, but that's me.
Okay, no problem.
But think about the potential chaos if we decide tonight to go mask optional and giving our building administrators time to get things organized. So my feeling is we need some time. Even if we decide tonight, let's give our building administration time to get ready for this.
I fully agree. Yeah, I wouldn't say. I agree. I don't think it's not something I would want to say like rip them off now and I think but I think it's a show of good faith too, and it's also just we get it, and I think we all get it. This is enough, nobody wants the mask on our kids. It's over, hopefully for the best. Omicron is just spread through everybody. So yeah, I agree with you, Peg. I think if we're going to do it, we give it a little bit of time to allow everybody appropriate time to prepare. But okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm personally tired of hearing trust the science, because until each and every doctor agrees on the science, I'm going to continue to question the science and do my own research, because coercion is not science. Withholding and manipulating data is not science. Cherry picking studies is not science. Social conditioning is not science. Fear mongering is not science. And censorship is not science. And I think enough is enough. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't, don't. My biggest concern is the damage that's being done to all our children. They have innocently been stuck in the crossfire of all this nonsense. Humans, especially children during the developmental years, are not wired to have their faces covered and not able to see their teachers, their mentors, and their friends' facial expressions. So I don't think we should mandate that our children wear them 8 hours a day. And we all know as soon as they're off the bus, the masks come off, the children play with each other the rest of the day and on the weekends. Many parents have taken their children out of public school systems, and still more have made the tough decision to tolerate it for the sake of their children's education. Both are tough choices, and we shouldn't have to make these decisions. I just want to know when the madness will end. I'm all for it. Take the mask off.
Thank you.
So I'm kind of the opinion of you, Judy and Peg, like, let's give the administration the 2 weeks. Let's look at more data. 1 week's worth of data does not make a trend. You don't jump off the roller coaster on the first, on the way down the hill. You wait till you get to the bottom. You make sure It's actually the right decision to do. So I'm all for doing this in 2 weeks. Let's do it then. Let's do it the right way. Let's not jump the gun. Let's make sure we're doing it the safe, correct way. That's my opinion.
Farina, when did we find out about the changes that second sheet you showed it that was today, right?
Well, so I made a call to OPH after hearing some things yesterday to find out, because I mean,
But yeah,
pretty status quo, we get it at 3:00 before a board meeting. So I made a call to ask what, if there were changes. And they shared yesterday that yes, and then we were able to have a thorough conversation today.
Actually, what they said was there's no changes, and then
Well,
there was a
right.
lot of changes.
Yeah. And
Well, very
then I
helpful.
kept asking questions like, by no changes, what do you mean? And then it's, everything changed. So, but I mean, I think that I was, I was surprised to hear that come out.
No, but this is, I mean, this would definitely be something nice to roll with, for sure. I mean,
I will say, I think that, to Judy's sentiments, that 50 mark is, I don't know, looking at a footprint or the county.
and I mean, the numbers are starting to come down. I mean, if school age children can get vaccinated if they want to. People can still wear masks. If people, like there's definitely, I think we're getting to a spot where, but like, yeah. So if you guys want to plan something out and then in 2 weeks we do it, I think that'd be great.
Absolutely.
I just have one quick. So more likely than us telling you, is that enough time for you to do that? Do you need less time to do that? To come up with something with the your new recommendations? I mean, I'm not opposed to a special meeting, even though I'll be in Florida. Sorry. But I could be.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
asking.
I have questions in terms of, the conversation shifted from come back in 2 weeks with some ideas and some concepts to come back in 2 weeks with a plan that says we're going mass optional. I mean, I don't know what the direction is, and maybe that's what's got to get fleshed out here in terms of the board, whether it's an action item or a distance. So I mean, I've heard two different things. Happy to do whatever's there.
That's why I was asking.
If the direction in the general sense, and Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, is we need a mask optional policy, and that's what we're directing you to get together, and we want it by a certain date or by the 2 meetings, then there's similar to what Peg said, there's some logistical pieces and a date and that type of thing. But so I'll need some clarity before the meeting's over. Are we leaving with what Mrs. McGinnis asked for, some ideas and concepts that initially wasn't a plan? Now it sounds like a revised health and safety plan to get to where we feel comfortable as best we are with mask recommended / option. So we just need some direction on what that will be, whether it's now or towards the end of the meeting or.
No, you, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna.
No, you're the, no.
Well, so you could be heard.
Oh, say it, I can hear me.
Yeah. So just to follow up on that point, it depends on what the direction of the board is. So certainly we are right now in the superintendent's report. There is discussion taking place, questions and comments. If Dr. Roach hears from the board that there is generally support, let's just say, for coming back in 2 weeks at the work session with proposals for the board to consider in terms of alternatives to the current plan, right? So what are those various alternatives? One of which could be immediately going to mask optional, one of which could be changing the metrics, one of which could be looking at different regions for those metrics, whatever the changes might be. If that is the direction, and through the discussion, Dr. Roach says, you know what I'm hearing now is a desire for in 2 weeks for me to come back with proposals. That's what I'm going to do. That's certainly his ability as superintendent. He could say, that's my plan. I'm coming back in 2 weeks with those proposals. If the board as a whole is looking for something different from that, then you can take action and direct that something else than that occur. Or right now, if you say, no, that was, a proposal that was made, but I would like us in 2 weeks to have an agenda item that says removal of masks effective the next day. And that message is heard through the discussion. Then Dr. Roach could say, all right, at this point, my plan in 2 weeks is to come and present you with a change to the health and safety plan that brings mask optional into effect immediately. So I think you can say what you're hearing based on the discussion. And if there's different opinions from that, the board members can certainly all express that now. You don't need to vote to direct something if you're satisfied with the direction that the superintendent states that he's going in.
So separate from a straw poll of some sort, I'm in a general sense, but not sure where everyone stands on the topic. So
How about if I try and make it clear? I would suggest that we direct the administration to come back at our next meeting with a plan to go mask optional immediately. So we put it in black and white saying, so there's no misunderstanding about it.
The workshop, not the next. Workshop.
Our next meeting, yes, our workshop meeting. Thank you.
And I would just respectfully amend that, Mr. McCarrick, to make mask optional that next Monday. So we're not going board meeting Friday. Friday, we open it up.
I accept that.
Give them the weekend.
Ms. Pennypacker, I agree with you, yes. I know most of the people, correct me, not most of the people. I know a lot of people want it to be optional as quickly as possible. But so that we can make this clear and get the word out at the appropriate time, I would like the recommendation to come at the next workshop meeting and have it effective on Monday if it passes.
What Keith and Peg said.
All right, I just want to make sure I'm clear on what you're saying. So you don't want to hear any other options, any other plans other than mask optional, where we're just going all or nothing. I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
My preference is mask optional. If they want to do more and put something else in there,
I
they're
just want to make sure
more
he
than welcome
knows what he's
to,
doing.
because our administration always tries to give us many avenues to go down. I do the same thing for my boss at work. When he says, get something done, what can you do? And I come up with a couple things of how we can solve a problem. So if they could do the same thing for us.
Do you feel like you understand?
yeah, I understand. If that's in general, getting the head nods here, that's in general. So
I would still push for following the trends, as long as the trends continue in their at their current course with the rapid decline in numbers. I'd also still think about metrics, some sort of, they don't have to be the metrics we're using now, but something.
No, we definitely need different.
Still metrics
at a bare
involved,
minimum.
and I would get away from just taking a sampling of our 6 municipalities.
Do you feel comfortable?
sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns before he moves on? Because he's
Just for the
actually not
record,
done.
yeah. Just for the record, I'm good with that.
Thanks.
I know, now you can all rest easy. It's all good.
Give her a break. It's her birthday.
Yeah, that's right.
So we had to be extra nice. All right. Do you want to?
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Hopefully everyone has enjoyed the boardroom enhancements. So we had a nice paint job in here as well as the display behind. So I want to thank you to the students and teachers in the high school in the material fabrication and advanced engineering and design program that worked on the new display on the wall behind me in the boardroom. When I first got here, I heard that this had been an item of discussion and project for a few years. In fact, students have been working on the project prior to COVID. There was life before that. A few years ago, so we don't even know the total number of students that had touched the project, but we know that it's been a long time to come. This summer at the administrative retreat, one of our activities was to create a station to brainstorm ideas, slogans, possible sayings that could be a part of this enhancement to the boardroom. I believe it was Dr. Farina that led this station as our entire admin team rotated through and provided feedback on the slogan that you see behind us. So I want to thank Dr. Farina for working with Mr. Moyer and Mr. Barman at the high school as they connected with some of the students and this whole concept that's there. In the picture there, you can see that was the mock-up, the gray one, and there's a white one that's obviously now behind us. So the students that, in addition to Mr. Moyer and Mr. Barman, which were here with laser pointers and all sorts of stuff the other day, putting this together, the students, Lucy Carpenter, Matt Wanamaker and Kylie Engel were definitely kind of brought the project home, although I don't have the names of everyone that participated in it. Definitely a group project in-house, very proud. So thank you to everyone for their time and effort on this, and hopefully it represents a high quality school district police display behind us. So we're proud of that. So thanks for that. Next, I'd like to share good luck to our Upper Perk High School girls basketball team, who is probably halfway through the game right now. The girls team finished the regular season 15-7, which was good for second place in the Pac Frontier division, and qualified the girls as the number 4 seed in the Pac 6 final. The girls who open postseason play tonight at 7:30. They'll play the number 5 seed Springford at Springford, who is the host of the Pac 6 final. If the girls win tonight, they will play the number 1 seed Methacton on Saturday at 1 o'clock. The girls are currently the number 10 seed in the District 1 5A championships, and as of today, they're scheduled to play the number 7 seed Villa Maria Academy on Friday, February 18th. So I know we had planned on having Mr. Kerswick here for a presentation. That is getting bumped to the workshop, but because he's down representing the district at this meeting. And hopefully to hear a win over Springford would be great. A lot of text to send. Yeah. I also want to let everyone know and support and invite people to the Unified Bocce team match that's coming up. So save the date for the Upper Montgomery County playoff for our high school Unified Bocce team on Monday, February 28th at 3:30 in the high school gyms. Our Unified Bocce team will compete versus North Penn, Solderton, and Upper Marion to see who will compete at a later date versus the winner from the Lower County playoff. So congratulations to our players and coaches on a successful season. And it's a thrill for us to host the playoffs this year for the Unified Bocce team. So if you come out, it's truly a great opportunity and great experience to support our students. I feel like I'm doing a commercial here, but also the Western Montgomery Center, just sharing skills over stereotypes. This is trying to, I think it was formerly called Girls Night Out, but they're trying to stretch that out even more and share that they have an open house. They're actually going all the way down to grade 5 and up. So 5 to 11, inviting them in to open the doors to get people some hands-on activity, which you can pre-register. This will be in the update tomorrow, going out to our families on March 1st. I don't like seeing snow date March 8th, but I guess that's in there as a backup. So again, it's promoting our Western Center and all that. Maybe I stole Mr. McCarrick's thunder here, but want to get this out to our community that for students, again, they're dipping into 5th grade to try to get people motivated to participate and learn about that. So that's the skills over stereotypes on March 1st. On the other side, we have kindergarten registration that's now open. So the paper, it was in the paper today, promoting that, and we're welcoming, what's the number we have so far, Dr. Farina? 35 so far signed up for next year's kindergarten. So it's a process. We ask everyone to register as early as you can. No surprise that kindergarten's coming for if you meet the age requirement, and that helps us with staffing, obviously, and getting everything prepared earlier, the better. So that information is out there. And again, we'll continue to promote that information moving forward. And then finally, just some general information. The Arts Fest is back this year in person. So there's a schedule. Again, we'll continue to promote that information that's out there. It's May 10th to the 13th. So the schedule's on the right. And we'll continue to promote that. And then finally, just sharing that we're working on the 2022-23 school calendar. So it's in draft form. As we often compare with the other 2 school districts at the Western Center to make sure we have as many dates in common as possible, as well as working with a team of in-house people, teachers and folks to make sure we have a good calendar and hopefully have that in March for approval. And then I know a lot of questions on the end of year school calendar. I'm hoping to have no more snow days and none of that other stuff. So we can really lock those days in as soon as we can to know what that looks like, and then finalize the graduation dates. We've gotten a couple calls about that. We want to get that as finalized sooner than later, trust me. But we want to make sure that we hit that date and share that. So these are all the things that are in process that I know are important for people. So share those things. But I'm definitely looking forward to my first Arts Fest week. I've heard all about it. And this one's a little different. So we're going to involve the middle school building as well as the high school building. So K to 8, everything's at the middle school, high school at the high school, and they can kind of divide and conquer and leave things up more for the high school students to see the high school stuff and the middle school to see everyone there. So again, highlight the new building that's there, and the schedule will be promoted as we go forward. All right. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we have our student representative to the board report. And today we have Isabella Lara here. So go ahead, Isabella.
Okay, I'd like to start by apologizing for being late. That's entirely my fault. I'm so sorry. Okay, anyways, so as previously mentioned, girls basketball has qualified for league playoffs as our 4th seed, and they play tomorrow at Springford. We also have varsity boys and girls swimming competing at PAC championships tomorrow and Saturday. Yes, because tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow and Saturday at Perkiomen Valley High School. On Monday, the 14th, Home Bocce has a match against North Penn. We have college informational night on the 15th. On the 16th, we have our virtual 8th grade parent orientation to prepare incoming 9th graders. On the 18th, there will be a 3-hour early dismissal. Schools are closed on Monday, February 21st for President's Weekend. And lastly, we are hosting a Bocce playoff tournament on the 28th, starting at 2 p.m.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to turn to our solicitor's report, Sunshine Act announcements. Mr. Summers.
Thank you, Madam President. The board did meet in an executive session immediately prior to tonight's meeting for the purpose of discussing a confidential student matter and receiving information on, but not deliberating 3 additional items. As a reminder for this evening's meeting, we have 2 public comment opportunities. The first of which is for any comment on anything that is being voted on the agenda tonight. And the second comment period, which occurs at the end of the meeting, is on any other matters of concern that may come before the board. There is a 2-minute time period for each speaker that is allotted, and I will have little signs that keep track of when you have 1 minute left and 30 seconds left and when the 2 minutes has elapsed. And you are just asked to state your name and your municipality at the time that you comment. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Next, we'd move on to the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion for that?
Motion.
Any comments, questions?
I have a comment. I don't believe that it's accurate because it mentions your kumbaya speech, but it doesn't mention how you attack a community member. And then my comments, there's only two sentences and it doesn't explain what I was complaining about.
On the agenda? Well, we're on approval of agenda. But, thank you. Do we have any comments on the approval of the agenda? No? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to public comments on action items. Excuse me? Oh, ignore you? Okay. Public comments on action items. Just come up to the podium. Anybody who wants to speak on an action item. Okay. I'd also like to announce that the board did not receive any board comments prior to the meeting either. So, so there's no public comments on action items. So we will move on to approval of minutes. Mrs. Hofkin, would you like to repeat your comment now?
Yes, I didn't think that it was accurate because of your kumbaya speech. After that, there's no mention of attacking the community member.
Okie doke. Thank you.
Second. Second.
No? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to the presentation and discussions. Board policy and administrative regulations, revisions, repeal and adoptions, first readings, and then policy number 335, 335AR, and 339.1. Ms. Pennypacker, do you or?
I defer
You're
to
gonna
Dr.
defer to Dr.
Farina
Farina?
and Mrs. Fisher, the
Okay.
stars of the show.
So our policy committee is currently reviewing our 300s personnel policies. So I'm going to ask Ms. Fisher to talk about those 300s and just remind all community members, we are going to continue the discussion on the 707 facilities use policy. Last meeting, we talked about the class designations. Our next meeting and many more, we'll be talking about fee structure and then presenting a total policy AR in the future.
Okay, so the policy committee met and we're recommending that we repeal and replace policy 335, which is our policy that speaks to family medical leave. Family medical leave is a federal act, so the eligibility criteria is spelled out in that act. So we found the policy needed some additional language to reflect the actual federal act. So those revisions, we're recommending that we repeal and replace policy 335. There was an existing 335 AR, and that policy, or that AR rather, had a form that was created by Upper Perkiomen School District. The policy committee is recommending that we use the Department of Labor Family Medical Leave forms, which is what we've been using for years. So the recommendation is to, repeal that entire AR. And then lastly, the recommendation is to repeal policy 339.1, which is the maternity and child rearing leave policy. The qualification for that policy would fall also under family medical leave. It's one of the eligibility criteria listed under the Family Medical Leave Act. And the Upper Perkiomen School District uses the doctor's determination of maternity leave, either 6 or 8 weeks, to determine the use of sick time, which would happen regardless whether or not there was policy 339 in place or not. So the recommendation again is to repeal policy 339.1, which is maternity and child rearing. Is there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
The plan was to do the 300, 400, and 500 series. So are you doing all of them together, like 300 is incorporating 4 and 5 as well?
That's correct.
Okay, and then obviously the policy is just going to point to the federal law in case that changes again?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
So as a first reading, we don't need to vote on this yet, correct? Okay. So we are going to move. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a comment?
I had a question.
I'm so sorry.
If
Go
I
ahead,
could.
Mr. Frege.
Just on the 335, you said the FMLA is a federal regulation, but it's saying it should be processed according with law, board policy, and administrative regulations. So does that leave us open to one superseding the other, or is that?
No, it's all
okay.
the same language.
Okay.
That's the intention, is that all three should mirror one another. So it didn't previously, but it will now.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay.
We're going to move on to old business. And first up is Dr. Roach with the student email security concerns with outside email and contacts.
Thank you. Yeah, there was a discussion at our January meeting and requested for follow-up. So I know there's been some communications in the 14th Friday blast as well as the 28th. So try to recap this for everyone. So in late December, we were made aware of a situation that upon further investigation that dipped into January, we discovered that the checkbox, for lack of a better term, for restricting outside email addresses to and from our student email system was not checked. So therefore, full access without restriction was in place when we were under the impression that it was in place. So until this point, we were operating with the assumption that the restriction was in place as to provide the safest environment for our students. As a result of that situation, the decision was made to restrict the student email for students in grades K to 8 for student to teacher and student to student communication only, with the exception of district approved content providers for specific instructional and educational only purposes. The decision was also made to keep the less restrictive access for students in grades 9 through 12 as they are older and have a greater involvement with college applications, job shadowing, and community service opportunities. In comparison with some other local districts, some have student email restrictions K to 12 that are similar to what we're talking about, and others are similar to K to 8, or they use the age of 13 to lift those restrictions. So the decisions were made to provide the safest environment for our students and be following our regulations and in compliance with their board policy. So there was a message that went out clarifying that on the 28th. I can read that to you. It says the IT department makes student safety and network security our top priority. As such, we wanted to provide an update on the previously shared topic of restricting the ability of students in grades K to 8 to communicate with external email accounts via their own student district email accounts. At this time, we will continue to enforce the email restrictions placed on the student accounts announced on January 14th. The department also makes use of several tools to monitor and verify the integrity and safety of district systems and to protect students from harmful content. And then there's a link to the policy 815, the internet computers and network resources, and sharing that kind of part of the acceptable use policy. So that's the update. There's been a couple of requests to continue to use that for family connections, but we were trying to rest ourselves on making sure that we provide that safe environment for our students. And that's kind of where we are. That's the update.
Thank you. And then transportation follow-up from January workshop.
Yep. So at the January workshop, there was a concern shared about a student not being permitted on a bus to school as they did not have a mask, and there were not extra masks available for that student. As a follow-up, I want to state that based upon the CDC order requiring face coverings on all transportation from January 29th of 2021, the directive to the drivers was to stay in compliance with the CDC order and that every student must have a mask to ride the bus. The driver on that day was following that directive, and due to no additional masks on the bus, did not permit the student to ride as per the protocol at that time. As a result of that situation and additional conversations immediately following that, centering on the competing issues of the CDC order required masks on transportation, balanced with the overall student health and safety, if left at a bus stop, we revised our protocols and communicated these expectations to our transportation provider as follows. Students are expected to arrive at the bus each day with the appropriate face covering and have the face covering on prior to boarding transportation. In the event a student does not have a face covering, one will be provided by the driver. Drivers are required to check the supply of masks on the bus as part of their pre-trip checklist. In the event the student does not have a mask and one is not available from the bus supply, the student will be permitted to ride the bus to school seated near the front of the vehicle for contact tracing purposes. On the rare occasion when a student is present at the bus stop and is unable or unwilling to board the bus for any reason, the following steps will be taken in order to immediately inform the school and parent of the situation. First one, driver is to identify the student's name and any information about the situation and reason why the student did not board the bus. Before continuing with the remainder of the route, the driver shall make all reasonable efforts to arrange for the student to board the bus. The driver will make a radio call to the transportation office and provide the name of the student, location of the stop, and any other information about the situation. The dispatch at the transportation department will immediately contact the parent of the student and then will notify the main office or school administration of the situation. And then finally, the school main office or administration will also contact the parent to notify them of the situation and determine if any additional support is needed and that the student is safe. So what we learned through there was definitely some loopholes and things that needed to get ironed up. I think we've addressed those issues clearly, given our directive to Christ, and that wasn't directed. We worked on this together back and forth and have come up with this new protocol for both situations, for the lack of the mask, as well as for follow-up to make sure that the student is, the parent is notified if they have a situation. And that's well beyond masks. I mean, when the whole mask issue is over on transportation, we still may have situations where students don't get on the bus. They report to the bus stop. We still want to have that communication line so the parents notified. So that's the closeout or the addressing of that issue.
And all that has been communicated beyond Christ to the subs as well as their regular drivers?
I'll defer to Mr. DeRiso in terms of the.
We've made sure of that.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, great, Jen's here. Great. All right, terrific. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Dr. Rocha about the transportation? No? Okay. All right, so we are going to move on to new business. So the first item under new business is the personnel report.
Can I make the motion to approve the personnel report in its entirety? That'd be the retirements, the resignations, the appointments and leaves of absence.
Second. Great, we have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, thank you to the teachers that are going to be retiring later on this year. It's well-deserved, I'm sure. Good luck in your future endeavors.
Just to echo that.
I was going to
yes.
say ditto from all above.
Ditto from all of us. I know Mrs. Infer just a little bit, just because she had one of my kids. She was very engaging. He really enjoyed her class. So just thank you to her and good luck to her. Zinfer. No. Did I say this year?
No, I'm asking, was the child this year?
No, it wasn't this year.
Cause and effect.
You know, it took me a second.
That was a stretch.
It took me a second.
Do we have exit
Hopkins.
interviews? Exit interviews?
Yep, exit interviews were already sent and many were received.
So at some point, will we get like a report, like an update on those?
Yeah, I believe it was around this time last year that I presented a report on the exit interview. So I'll be glad to pull that data together for you so you can take a look at it.
That'd be great. Thank
Sure.
you.
Happy to do it.
All right. So we have a motion and a second for accepting the personnel report in its entirety. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We are going to move on to our action items. All right. The first action item is a motion to adopt the PSBA Principles of Governance and Leadership.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Great. We have a first and a second. Any questions, comments?
I just like this personally because of the way it addresses us as board members to actively, represent all students and try to be there for all students, no matter whatever sort of challenges or backgrounds they may come from. And I think that is the most important thing that we can do. So thank you.
Any additional comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
Madam President, may I make a motion to approve item B, C, is the board policy, board policy revision of field adoption of the plan and special education services.
We have a first and a second. Any questions or comments? No? Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. We're going to move on to our financial reports. Mr. Hipser.
All right. If you want to open up to page 22, that's where we're going to start. The business report for February 10th includes the following. Under general fund expenditures appearing on pages 22 to 26, these disbursements total $1,615,067.52. Notable among these payments are nearly $300,000 in charter school payments. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve these expenditures.
Questions first?
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Are there any?
Sorry. Just
I'll
a
get this-
couple, just a couple.
I'll order this right
Yep,
someday.
it's all good. I'll remind you.
Questions?
Okay, so the Laro Corporation, I'm looking specifically at check 13849. I just don't remember what that is. Sorry.
Bear with me for 1 second. And I will.
In the meantime, Dina, thank you for mentioning the charter payments. They're hard on us.
It's startling.
Yeah.
That is the TriCaster, which I believe is that is the high school studio.
Okay. All right. And that was 20, well, a little over $20,000. And I see a couple payments in for general healthcare resources. Is there something specific about that, or I just in general? It doesn't have to be too specific.
Yeah, General Healthcare Resources provides our nurses and our medical assistants that we increased this year due to COVID.
Okay. All right. I think that was it. Go ahead. I think it was it. I will leave you alone now.
If there are no
I'll make the
further
motion to
questions,
approve. If you're ready for that.
yeah, I'm ready to entertain that.
I'll second.
Any opposed?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right. Next, on pages 27 and 28 are expenditures from the capital projects and capital reserve accounts. Checks totaling $24,578.50, most of which is a payment for new bleachers for the athletic fields. Under the capital reserve, there's one check to Noresco, which is a GIZA fund payment in the amount of $328,135.32. Are there any questions?
No, but I would proudly make the motion to accept those because there's something that's not on here. And I don't even have to say what it is. Thank you. Where is my champagne today? That is a birthday present.
There we go.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Second. You need it.
All right. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This concludes the financial report. Back to you, Ms. McGinnis.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is new follow-up items. Does anybody have anything that needs to be placed on that for our next board meeting? Well, that'll be at the workshop. Yeah, that'll be at the workshop. No? All right, hearing none, we will move on to public comment. So this is the time when you can come up on anything, doesn't have to be related to what was on the agenda. So just remember to come up, state your municipality and your name. Thank you.
Melissa Carreras, East Greenville. I'd like to know why Zoom capabilities have never been available during quarantine for K through 3, only recently available but limited for 4 and 5, which does not pertain to advanced learning IEP students. We are 6 months into the school year. It is not like we don't have the technology. If middle school and high school students can Zoom different classes, then elementary should be able to do so with having just one classroom. Some students have been quarantined 10 to 40 days or more in total this year, with little to no education. That's not keeping students educated 180 days. That's just keeping school doors open 180 days. Also, you quoted that masks are effective. Yes, masks are effective when they are being worn properly. I've been in healthcare for 19 years and counting, and have done required in-services on PPE protocol for the last 11 years. Most children are not wearing masks properly. Have you seen how some of these children take care of their masks? Dropping them on the ground, touching them constantly, using them to wipe their nose, not disposing of them after sneezing or coughing in them. Then there are children with developmental disorders, disabilities, or other specific health conditions, children with severe cognitive or respiratory impairments who have difficulties tolerating a mask. Many doctors are refusing to write exemptions. Ours was one of them. So I hope you consider those things along with the effects of prolonged mask wearing when you vote on optional. And just to clarify, if my child is vaccinated for chickenpox and gets chickenpox, can he still come to school? Since vaccinated for COVID can?
Thank you. Any additional comment? Oh, yeah.
So I got my township right there, written down in the sun, but I'm not saying that out loud again. John McFadden, I'm a parent of a student here in the district. I want to say thank you, first off, for changing that policy. But again, I really got to ask what the hell this district's doing. Why is a child getting 10 minutes to eat at lunch? How is that acceptable? You guys want to say about CDC guidelines and recommendations, but you guys want to ignore that when it comes to the recommended 20 minutes to eat at a sit down. It's absurd. Either your teachers are incompetent by ignoring the table to call, or I don't know, maybe my child was responsible enough to be left on the side of the road, but not responsible enough to go get her damn food on her own when lunch starts. It's absurd. This whole system is absurd lately. I don't know what you guys are thinking. I don't know if you guys are just like, we're in charge of children, so we're going to bully them, but it's not acceptable. I'm an adult and that's my kid. And I think I made it quite clear that I'm not going anywhere until she's taken care of. 10 minutes to eat, ridiculous. And then apparently she's threatened with detention if she doesn't sweep up after her entire table. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And I think it's retaliation. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Okay. There's no other public comments tonight? Okay. We will move on to, I'm sorry. Didn't see you.
Mike Long, Pennsburg. I don't know where to start. So many things. Sign looks great. It's cute. Doesn't really speak the truth. Every student doesn't matter, and not in this school district. I mean, it's been clear. This young girl got left on a bus stop last month. We're not paying attention to our kids. I'd like to ask a motion from someone on the board that you could put a vote to the mask for tonight. It sounds like it would be open if somebody motioned to do it. Ms. Pennypacker, you mentioned chaos. Chaos is now. We're living in chaos. To remove the mask would not be chaos. To remove the mask or make them optional would be the opposite of chaos. Is there anybody who's willing to make a motion to take it to a vote to make the effective date on Monday? If we're going to do it on the 24th and make it effective on the 28th or whatever, why can't we make a vote and make it effective on the 14th?
I'll make that motion to make mask optional.
Let's take it to a vote tonight. Let's see where everybody's minds are. I mean, I think you need to do the right thing. Almost everybody up here said they're tired of it. Let's see how really tired of it you are. We can make a motion and we can set an effective date. To say 2 weeks from now makes no difference. Everybody agrees with the fact that you're not going to get to the number. Let's just stop the madness. Stop the charade. You're all sitting up here wearing masks, but you're not when I see you in the supermarket, and you're not when I see you in the restaurant. So come on, let's stop it. Can we carry a motion through? Can we vote on this tonight and take care of this and be done with it? Make it optional. Let our kids get on with their lives.
Thank you for your comment. We will move on to board comments now. Any board comments?
Yes.
Yes, Mrs.
I
Cunningham.
would just like to say that and I'm pretty sure that this will get taken the wrong way, but I'll say it anyway. So I believe that not doing a motion this evening is the right thing to do, because we do have, it isn't just, there's 500 staff and 3,400 kids and all of their families. And I think part of the issue is that there's not time for communication to do all of that. And I don't think it would be fair to our administrators who we've just tasked to do something that we've asked. And that was why I asked the question, is that enough time? Do you need less time? Do you need more time? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cunningham. Mr. McCarrick, I see you going. Go ahead.
No, I'm not shy. I agree with Melanie. You know, if we did vote tonight, there are a couple of things that would have to go on, as our solicitor explained. It would not be done in a sincere, conscientious manner. I'd rather we have the facts, the plan for everybody to hear, comment on, and then we as a board can make the decision to go forward. You know, we've seen it in the past too many times. People make decisions or they hear something. And guess what? That whisper down the lane through phone calls, texts, Facebook, and every other media out there ends up being wrong. So let's do it the right way. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. McCarrick. This side, anybody over here have a comment or concern? Yes, Ms. Frago.
So first of all, I love that sign. I talked to Dr. Roach when I got here early. I said, it's awesome. I love that the kids did it. And we need to recognize more of that kind of thing. And this is something that you and I discussed before, Judy. And I think now's a good time to almost issue a challenge to students, to the teachers, principals, administration, anybody out there. Go ahead and email me something good that you've seen in the school. We recognize a lot up here, but I think we need to do more. So if there's a student who's having a tough time and they all of a sudden, got a concept that they're excelling now, let us know. Send me like a paragraph right up in my email for school board, in my school board email. If there's teachers that have been helping each other out and they think they deserve the recognition, email me, let me know. And maybe we end up picking, one a month or one every 2 weeks, something like that. And we call it, I just thought of this, maybe like school board shout outs, SBSOs, something extra. A lot of the schools have, student of the month or something like that. And we recognize a lot of the sports teams here, and that's great. But let's do more of it. Let's get that little story out there that not everybody knows about or not everybody's heard of, but that person or event or action deserves some kind of good recognition. So that's what I'd like to say. I'd like to see happen.
Thank you, Mr. Prego. You didn't like my idea of, what was it? Prego's positive. What was the third P? I can't remember.
Press.
That
Prego's
was it.
positive press. Yeah.
Prego's positive press.
I thought school board shout outs is more
I'm just kidding.
SBSOs. Sounds better.
Any other board comments? All right. So we do have some meetings coming up, Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting on February 17th, followed by Pupil Services and Special Ed. We have a Finance Committee meeting on the 22nd. Communication Committee meeting will be right before the board workshop on the 24th. And I would love to see some public join that, because the Communication Committee this year is really going to look to try and forge a better communication with our families. So it'd be great if you could, if you're dedicated enough to come to board meetings, hopefully you'll be dedicated enough to come to Communication Committee meetings and help us figure out a way to communicate better with you. Policy is on 2/28, and extracurricular and facilities are also on that date. So
Note the
lots of
special
good
time
meetings.
for policy.
Oh, thank you. There's a special time for the policy committee meeting. And that is at 3 p.m. And that's, as I said, we are having a really difficult time with the calendar. So that one ended up at 3 o'clock. There was 3 administrators, I think, on vacation in the month of February that needed to be at that meeting. So if nobody has anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.